So I'll continue on from where Andrea left off, but I'll speak more about the situation in Denmark and, of course, the broader European Union, Denmark being one of the 27 member states of the European Union. The objective of my presentation is really to give you a greater understanding of the importance of risk management systems in the border enforcement of IP in Denmark. But I also want to emphasize the importance of the IP owner and the role that they do in supporting customs enforce IP at the border. I get confused. So just to remind you now, when I use the word fake, that's just a generic term for an IP infringement. Counterfeit is referring to the infringement of a trademark, and piracy is referring to the infringement of a copyright. So just to clarify the terminology that you may hear me use over the next few minutes. I've split the presentation into 5. I want to talk about impact. So you've heard a few people mention yesterday about this European Union initiative called Impact. I'll go into more detail about what exactly that is. I'll then talk about potential sources of information, building on what Andrea said. I'll then move on to the importance of the application of action to the work of customs when it comes to border enforcement. I'll talk about one very straightforward case study, and then we have the conclusion. So let's talk about impact. In Denmark, customs officers, law enforcement, they're not protecting IP to increase the profits of large international companies or very rich, famous singers and actors. That is not the motivation of law enforcement in Denmark and the European Union. Okay? We are only interested in protecting society from serious threats. Over many, many years, law enforcement, 20, 25 years ago when I first got involved in IP enforcement, that's the argument I would get thrown back at me. I'm not interested in making companies richer or people, singers, actors richer. Neither am I. This is about protecting society. Okay? Specifically, as you heard yesterday, the economy. Intellectual property is the foundation of the economy in Denmark and the European Union. 42% of GDP, 29% of all jobs are in IP industries. So as a government, as law enforcement, we want to protect IP to protect the economy. Health. Alcohol, medicines, all sort of cosmetics damage and potentially kill people when they're counterfeit. We want to protect our society. That's why, as law enforcement and customs officers, we prioritize IP. And organized crime. I'll say a bit more about organized crime, but there's many, many more reasons for law enforcement and governments to prioritize IP rather than the 3 on the board, but those are the 3 main reasons in Denmark. Organized crime. What's the definition of organized crime? Any volunteers? How do you define organized crime? I know you know, Tarto. I know you know. We've talked about this before. Quiet. But Interpol, the United Nations, have a definition for organized crime. And you will have something similar in Indonesia. Specifically, 3 or more people working together to commit offences over a period of time with the goal of making money. It's all about money. There may be violence, people may get killed, but that is not the motivation of organized crime. It's about making money. This, as you see all over the world. Denmark, Indonesia, all over the European Union, you will see this. Poor people on the street selling counterfeit or pirate goods. This is Buenos Aires in Argentina, but it's a scene you will see everywhere in the world. Is that organized crime? Thoughts? Hands up if you think it's organized crime. Okay. Hands up if you think it's not organized crime. Okay. Some on the fence, the majority say organized crime, some say no. So what we have here is 3 or more people working together over a period of time to commit offences. So probably by the letter of the law, of the definition, that is organized crime. But it will be difficult to convince a prosecutor or law enforcement to take that forward as organized crime. But what I want you to think about is what's behind this picture, okay? Do you think these poor people go home to their family every night and they sit and make handbags, sunglasses, t-shirts? Do they sit and make them at home and then the next day they come out and sell them? No. These goods were made, counterfeit goods, were made illegally in China, smuggled out of China, smuggled round the world, smuggled into Argentina, and given to these illegal immigrants to pay back their debt to the organized crime gangs. That is organized crime. Think about what's behind that simple picture. It's very much just the tip of the iceberg. Okay? So just think about that the next time you see people selling IP infringing goods on the street. What's behind that picture? Oh, back 2. Keep going back. Back 1. You ruined my question. What's the most valuable illegal trade in the world? The most valuable illegal trades in the world. Narcotics? People trafficking? Weapons smuggling? The clue is in the room. Why are we here today? IP crime. Okay. Human trafficking, that annual global value, and human trafficking, 120 billion US dollars a year. Narcotics, 320 billion US dollars a year. IP, you heard the figure yesterday, 467 billion US dollars a year. IP infringements, IP crime is the most valuable illegal trade in the world. And I want you also to consider this. That figure doesn't include the internet. And it doesn't include goods sold and made in the same country. It only includes goods made in one country and sold in another country. Because the methodology used to do the calculation is based on customs statistics. Because they are the only reliable law enforcement statistics that we have. If we included the internet, if we included national domestic manufacture, you're talking over $1 trillion US a year. It is by far the most valuable illegal trade in the world. So we all accept organized crime is involved in people trafficking and narcotics. Why would they ignore IP? The other thing I want you to think about is, and again it was alluded to yesterday, when someone commits an IP infringement, quite often they don't just commit an IP offense, they will commit other offenses. Environmental offenses, if it's pesticides. Health and safety, if it's medicine or alcohol. Manslaughter, again, if it's medicine or alcohol, the person dies, which we've many examples of taking counterfeit medicines. Fraud, cybercrimes, tax evasion, VAT fraud, membership of an organized crime gang, smuggling and corruption. So when someone commits an IP offense, they also commit a lot of other criminality. We cannot leave this to private companies to tackle by themselves. We must be involved as law enforcement and governments, because this is a direct threat to our society. You cannot leave it to private companies. Okay, coming back to the Impact Initiative based on that background. So as a reminder, the European Union, 27 member states, of which Denmark is one. Impact stands for the European Multidisciplinary Platform Against Criminal Threats. And what happens there? It's the EU flagship instrument for fighting crime. It targets major threats to the European Union. What happens is every 4 years, the justice ministers from the 27 member states meet and debate what are the biggest criminal threats to the European Union. And then they agree, and then they set that crime as a priority for the next 4 years. In March 2021, the 27 justice ministers included IP crime as a direct threat to the European Union, which means it's a priority for the European Union to protect and enforce IP. The last meeting, 2025, the justice ministers met again just last month, and again, they identified direct threats, criminal threats to the European Union. Narcotics trafficking, cybercrime, human trafficking, firearms and explosive, and IP crime. IP crime is in the same level of criminality in the European Union, in Denmark, as these crimes that no doubt you all opine is serious. So it's a priority for the European Union. Let's come back then to profiling. Sources. Let's talk about potential sources of information. As Andrea said, as customs officers, you don't have the resources to stop, to open, to search every container that passes through your country or enters your country or leaves your country. So you're relying on risk analysis to know which container to open. This is a World Customs Organization risk management system model. And it goes through all the steps that members of the World Customs Organization should consider when they're developing a risk management model. But I want to concentrate on this, the collection of information. So in Denmark, our major sources of information when it comes to information for our risk management model comes from national and international law enforcement. So in Denmark, the police, the market inspectors, the customs all share information. But also within the European Union, the customs authorities are always sharing information. And also, as Andrea mentioned, customs, sometimes through the World Customs Organization, are also sharing information, which is all used by Danish customs to build their risk profiles. Customers, dissatisfied customers that import goods quite often will make a complaint. And one of the institutions they complain to will be customs. That's great information intelligence to put in the risk management model. Whistleblowers, people who work for criminal organizations that fall out with the criminal organization, quite often will whistleblow to law enforcement. Another great source of information. Shipping and logistic companies. A big initiative we have in Denmark, in the European Union now, is try to get intermediaries to work with law enforcement to fight IP infringements. So on the internet, that would be the internet service providers, the hosting companies, the e-commerce platforms. These are all legal companies whose services are used by criminals to commit crimes. So they are more than willing to work with law enforcement to fight IP infringements. In the customs sphere, shipping and logistic companies. Customs should be working with the shipping and logistic companies to raise their awareness about how their services are being abused by IP criminals. So quite often, they will help identify potential information that can be used for risk analysis. Finally, we have industry associations and IP owners. And I want to concentrate now on IP owners. Andrea mentioned it, different ways that we interact and we get information from IP owners. But perhaps the main tool that we have is applications for action. Similar to the recordations that you spoke about, Tarto, yesterday, very similar to that, comes from the same sort of theory. This is the application for action form for Denmark, but all 27 member states of the European Union. We all use the same form. 5 pages. It's 5 pages. That's what it is. How big is a recordation, I should have asked. Is it 2 pages or something or similar?
Application. It's online application, so no pages at all.
No pages. Like that makes it easy. It's now online as well now, the alpha here. But yeah, the application for action, it's the main tool for gathering information intelligence from IP owners about their IP and how customs can protect it. It's 5 pages, but in practice, it could be hundreds and hundreds of pages. Once all the additional information, the registration certificates for IP is annexed to these 5 pages. These could be large, large documents. Okay. Just a quick overview of some of the information that we want IP owners to provide the customs authorities in Denmark and the European Union. So first is the applicant information. Who is the applicant? Who is making it? We want their name, their address, their contact details, the email, their economic operator registration identification number. I won't go into that. Maybe you can later. But we want all the details of the applicant so we know who's making the application. As you heard yesterday, there's 2 types of application in the European Union. The national application, so if someone makes a national application in Denmark, it's for protection in Denmark only. But you can make a union application, which potentially could cover all 27 countries in the European Union, or less. You can choose the countries you want to protect your IP in. So you have to submit the type of application, status of the applicant. So not just the IP owner can make the application. It could be a licensee, a company or individual that's licensed to use the IP. It could be a collective management organization when it comes to copyright, music and movies, represented by collective management organizations around the world. They can make an application for action. legal firms, representative of geographical indications, these can all make the application for action. So we want to know the status of the applicant. So that must be in there. And if it is a representative, of course, we want their name, their address, their contact details, and the power of attorney, showing that they have the rights to enforce that IP. IP details. We want to know what is the IP you want us to protect on your behalf. Is it trademark? Is it design? What kinds of goods are protected by those trademarks? So we want all that information in the application for action. As I said, member states, we want to know which of the 27 member states you want to protect the IP. It might only be 5, it might be 10, it might be all 27. But you must make that clear in the application. Authentic goods, so the genuine goods. I, as a customs officer, want to know how I can tell the goods in front of me are genuine. So I want you to give me as much information as possible about how I, as a customs officer, can see that these are genuine goods. Conversely, infringing goods. I want you, as the IP owner, to tell me how I can identify a fake. So when I'm standing at the border, middle of the night, I've got a shipment, I'm fairly confident that what I'm looking at is a fake. So you, as the IP owner, need to give me as much information as possible in the application for action so I can do my job. Risk assessment data. When it comes to genuine goods, I want to know where the genuine goods are made. I want to know the shipping routes. I want to know the shipping companies. I want as much information that you can give me so that I know the shipment I'm looking at is genuine and not fake. And conversely, I want intelligence about the fake goods. Where are the fake goods made? How are they shipped into Indonesia? I want as much information as possible. And you as the IP owner should give that to me. Sensitivity. Some of the security features in my application that I tell you about to help you identify the genuine goods, maybe I don't want that widely spread. I only want that restricted to a few select officers. So I would take this as sensitive, do not spread. Small consignment. Again, we talked about it yesterday. If you want customs to use the small consignment procedure for your intellectual property, you tick the box. If you don't tick the box, customs will not use the small consignment procedure for your intellectual property. Finally, undertakings. You'll like this title. Customs are not liable for any action they take in respect of your IP. The IP owner is potentially liable if they do something which causes customs to perhaps make a mistake by not updating information, for instance. And costs, the IP owner must say that they will be responsible for all storage and destruction costs involved in the action of customs. More and more, just a quick thing, more and more IP owners are using authentication marks in their goods to help customs identify if it's genuine or fake. Could be a hologram. More and more, we're now seeing blockchain solutions. So they're coming out now to help customs identify what's fake and what's not. If that is used by the IP owner, that should be in the application for action. So the IP owner should put that in the application for action, that there are these authentication methods in my goods. Next thing is, we want, as customs authorities in Denmark, we want IP owners to submit an application for action. So we proactively organize seminars and organize events to encourage the IP owners to submit applications for action. We want them to help us to protect their IP so we can protect society. So we do organize events. In the European Union, there's a website, DG Taxud, they have a website, and on that website they talk about, among many other things, applications for action, how to get an application for action, and how to fill it in. So there's an instruction manual on how to complete the application for action. That's all online and can be accessed by anyone at any time. And as I say, these are the events, outreach. We proactively go out to IP owners, go to IP owners events, like the IP Expo here, and we talk about applications for action, and we want you to submit an application for action. These are Danish custom statistics. I'm not going to go through them all. I just want you to highlight the cases column. 2015, 1,500 cases. The last 5 years, 7,000, 8,000, 5,000, 5,000. You can see the awareness, the working together with IP right holders is helping customs make more and more seizures. So be proactive, get the IP owners to submit applications for action. Very quick, simple case study. So this case study relates to Bulgaria, Turkey, Bulgaria, and Denmark. And it's about an interception that was made on the border between Turkey and Bulgaria. Okay, so here we have the border. Just here. Bulgarian customs, they received the paperwork of a lorry coming from Istanbul in Turkey across the border into Bulgaria and heading eventually for Denmark. The customs authorities were not happy with the paperwork, specifically the value. They thought that the shipment for soap, hand soap, was under declared value. So they decided they would physically inspect the lorry. So they did. They stopped one of the few lorries that day. They stopped it. They stripped it down. They searched it physically. And within the boxes of soap, they found perfume hidden underneath the boxes of soap. And they suspected it was an infringing trademark. They expected it was counterfeit goods. So they went to their application for action for that trademark. And they saw that in the application for action, the owner had said, we only make that perfume in Italy. We don't make it any other country. So a shipment of perfume coming from Turkey should be suspicious. So customs, based on that application for action, they have the IP owner's details. They contact the IP owner. The IP owner comes, certifies that it is in fact an infringement, and the shipment is detained. 11 pallets, with the work of the IP owner, 11,402 bottles of counterfeit perfume, potentially harmful to humans. But what was specifically good in this case, based on the work that Bulgarian customs had done with the lorry company, the lorry company said, hey, in the last 3 months, we've done 12 different shipments for the same company to Denmark. So the intermediary, the logistics company, told customs, Bulgarian customs, hey, we've done this 12 times before in the last 3 months. So based on that information, based on the paperwork, information was transferred to Danish customs. Danish customs liaise with the authorities, the police, because Danish companies are only competent on the border, whereas the police are competent in the internal market. So Danish customs shared the information with Danish police. Danish police raided the consignee address on the paperwork, from Bulgarian customs. 100,000 bottles of counterfeit counterfeit perfume was detained. The court case is now concluded. The two individuals responsible for the importation of the counterfeit cosmetics were sentenced to 4 years imprisonment each. And of course, the counterfeit cosmetics were destroyed. What I like about this case is, okay, you had a good detection, you had a good detention. I love the fact the intermediary, the lorry company, assisted law enforcement develop the case. International cooperation. Bulgaria passed the information to Danish customs. Danish customs then informed the police. This was a great example of international cooperation. Don't stop at the border. The criminals don't. Go as far back with the investigation as you can. And of course, you have the IP owner cooperation, essential to the detection and the confiscation of the shipment. So in conclusion, IP infringements are a threat to society. I'll just pause here briefly and say, this is a massive change. 25 years ago, I could not get police or customs to take a case in the European Union. They weren't interested. Even though it might be Russian organized crime gangs who are also selling weapons, all they saw was IP. Oh, we don't do IP. That's about making international companies rich. It's a private right. We don't get involved. That was the situation 25 years ago. But because of all the statistics and all the research that Béranger mentioned yesterday, we have woken up governments and law enforcement to what the impact is in society. So if you don't have that kind of documentation, that kind of research, I would suggest that you do it to help your governments and law enforcement understand what this is about. Based on all that research, all that background documents, we now have the Impact Initiative in the European Union where IP is a priority for all 27 countries, their governments and law enforcement, all based on that research. Needle in a haystack, I love that analogy. Great, Andrea. Needle in a haystack. There's no way that we can open every container, every parcel and search it. You need very, very good information to convert to intelligence to be successful. IP owners, treat them as partners. Without IP owners, you cannot protect society against IP crime. So you need to work closely with them. IP is very unique when it comes to law enforcement that you need to work so closely with IP owner, but we need them to help us. Applications for action, essential. Encourage all your IP owners to submit as many recordations as you can, because you need that information to help you to do your job. Thank you very much. Thank you.